over their bed and speaking in a really deep voice.
This is the woman who lived in the House of Horrors with her 3 children before Zach Bagans bought it. LaToya Ammons fought back tears when she told us how they fled in terror after her daughter was raised right off her bed. She says the demons sounded like this.
We've waited 5 months. He walked up the wall and did the backwards flip.
How did everybody in the hospital react to your son walking up the wall?
They took off and they ran.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. I just want to thank all my supporters, man, who come back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man, commenting down below, even if it's just to say hi, guys. It really helps us in the algorithm, and most importantly, hitting that thumbs up button on each and every single video drop. I greatly appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, man. Stay with me, y'all. I know what we do. Let's seek the truth.
Terrifying apps you should never download. Part 1. Up first we have Camster Pro. Now from an outside perspective, it actually looks quite cool and completely harmless. Now when downloaded on an iPhone, it gives you an option to connect to a network of iPhones which will connect you to security footage, MacBook cameras, iPhone cameras, so you can essentially watch other people. That's already strange, but it gets worse. What isn't told to you is when you download this app, you are unknowingly giving other people free reign to look through your device's camera, meaning other app users from around the world could be staring at you through your iPhone and you wouldn't have a clue. Now share this with a friend to make sure they never download this app, because this could legitimately save their life. Elon!
I'm
Here
never
are a few
getting
of
that.
the worst submechanophobia images I've ever seen. Part 3. This is apparently real. I don't know where it is. Apparently it's in Italy, or it looks like it's in Italy. I might be completely making that up. But here's it from another angle. Could you imagine swimming in a boat and seeing that? I don't know how deep it is underwater. I don't know if it's held up by pipes. I don't know if it's held up by scaffolding. I don't know if it's just the whole arm. I don't know if it's a whole sculpture. Terrifying.
This might be the worst
okay.
death of all time. This is a photo of an Englishman named Alan Catterall, whose death in 2010 made worldwide news. Now, Alan worked for a company that manufactured and made kayaks. Now, you're probably thinking that this job doesn't really sound dangerous, and you'd be right. However, on December 23rd, 2010, Alan's job was to clean the industrial oven that the factory used to melt kayaks. And so after finishing his lunch break for the day, Alan set off to go clean the inside of the oven using cleaning materials and a crowbar. However, when the door closed behind him, it was accidentally locked by a coworker who was unaware that Alan was doing his job inside of the oven that day. And sadly, the coworker who turned the oven on was named Mark Francis, who was engaged to Alan's daughter. The oven slowly heated up to over 550 degrees Fahrenheit with Alan inside of it. And by the time the coworkers opened the door, Alan had burnt to death.
You may have heard of La Llorona, but do you know the terrifying story of La Quemada? A woman who plunged her face into a bucket of hot coals to see if her boyfriend only loved her for her beauty. And before we dive in, this week's episode is all legends and ghost stories from Mexico City. So back in the 1600s in Mexico City, there was this beautiful woman named Beatrice who lived on a street that's now called La Quemada. And Beatrice fell in love with an Italian man named Don Martin. I mean, who wouldn't? But her father kept warning her about this guy. He thought that Don Martin only loved Beatrice for her beauty. She thought if she removed her beauty from the equation, she would know if Don Martin loved her for her. So that night, she gathered up a bucket of hot coals and she plunged her face into them. And now it's rumored that La Quemada is one of the most haunted streets in Mexico City. Some say that at night, you can see just her eyes watching you from the dark, that the rest of her face has completely melted away. Anyways, you should check out this week's episode if you want to hear more stories from Mexico City. Legends, folklore, myths, ghost stories, you name it.
This video is gonna show.
I mean, she took it to the extreme. I've heard of, people wanted to test their partners, but to do that on her face, to see if you truly just loved her for, her as a person or just for her beauty and looks. That was a... Let me think about it. I think that might have been the first loyalty test. probably ever in the history. Whoa.
Show you how the world was actually doing better than ever. Nearly half of all children in the world were dying before their 5th birthday in the year 1800, and now that is less than 5%. You can see here that only 10% of adults in the year 1800 could read and write, and now that number is almost 90. 100 years ago, basically nothing was protected on Earth, and now almost 15% of the entire Earth is protected by national parks. Smoke particles in the air have gone down by over half. In just 35 years, the share of people with water has gone up 30%. Equal rights for women has become the standard in just a little over a century. Battle deaths per 100,000 people has gone down quite a lot. This shows a drastic improvement of how much oil is actually being spilled into the ocean. Deaths from disasters are way down. And world hunger is constantly on the downfall. We still have a lot of work to do, but the world is not all that bad. Scrolling on social media or watching the news can make it really hard sometimes to feel like anything in the world is actually going right.
True.
But when we're able to just take a breath, take a moment, and try and see things from a different perspective, there's a lot of good in the world to see, and we don't have a lot of time on Earth to enjoy it.
I want to see those updated graphs. Those are like 2010, 2015s. I want to see those numbers now. See, because you guys
Here are some unethical life hacks you need to know. Okay, firstly, if you're ever trying to meet someone but they live pretty far away, just tell them you live 2 times further than you actually do and tell them to meet halfway. So you can just stay at home until they arrive. Now, next time you're on a plane and somebody decides to lean back their seat until you almost have no legroom, turn on the air conditioning above your head on the plane and point it towards theirs. They will definitely stop reclining their seat. If you ever want to sound sick when calling into work or anything like that because you just want to relax, just lie your head over the edge of your bed and you will sound congested when you talk. If you're ever traveling and you forgot a phone charger and you don't want to buy a new one, just go to the hotel staff and say you lost a charger. When they ask you what it looks like, just say it's a white iPhone charger. And since there's many of those, they'll probably just give one to you. Oh yeah, and finally, don't tell anyone you got these tips from me.
Morbid facts.
That's crazy.
Part 422. In 1986, 21-year-old Christopher Thomas Knight ran out of gas in rural Maine, entered the woods, and lived there for the next 27 years without human contact. He survived by committing over 1,000 burglaries against houses in the area to be able to endure the harsh winters of Maine. Knight was eventually captured by a game warden and sentenced to 7 months in jail, later vowing to live normally and to never steal again. In the 19th century, African woman Sarah Bartman was displayed as a freak show attraction in Europe for her unusually large backside. Marketed as the missing link between man and beast, she was often brought out as an exhibit at wealthy parties and private events. In 1815, Sarah died of an unknown illness at the age of 26, likely as a result of her poor living conditions. Her remains were later displayed in the French Museum of Natural History for over a century, before she was finally laid to rest in her native South Africa in 2002.
That's crazy, just because she had a
Terrifying
big
games you don't want to play, part 34. The Sad Man Ritual. This game can only be played by someone who has experienced a scarring event in their life which they haven't been able to recover from. If the game is played correctly, that event will be wiped from their memory completely. However, the consequences for losing can be unbearable. If you are one of the unfortunate individuals who wishes to play this game, you'll need to summon the Sad Man. All you'll need to do this is a bag of ashes and a functioning telephone. Once you have acquired these items, you'll need to wait until the moon is fully visible in the sky before calling the number displayed on your screen. If no one answers, you'll have to call again some other time. However, if you hear the sound of crying on the other end of the phone, hang up immediately. The game has now begun. You'll need to spread the ashes on your bed and lie down as if you are sleeping. At exactly midnight, the Sad Man will appear in your room and sit on the bed next to you. The Sad Man will begin to ask you a series of questions about your life, such as how often do you lie, and have you ever stolen anything. These questions must be answered truthfully or the game will immediately end and you will be punished for lying. With that being said, you don't have to give a straight answer as long as you're not lying outright. For example, if he asks you if you have ever stolen anything, you can respond with something to the effect of, "Is anything ever truly owned?" When the clock strikes 1, he will decide based off your answers whether or not your sadness is deserved. If he decides that you are a good person, he will erase any distressing memories from your mind permanently. But if he decides that you are a bad person, you will never find happiness for as long as you live. Comment whether or not you would play this game and follow for more.
Ooh, I'll never play that game. Never
So
will.
this is the actual basement where 200 demons were coming out of in LaToya Amen's Indiana rental home. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a movie going crazy viral right now. It's on Netflix and it's called The Deliverance.
What the?
Now it is based on a true story that the Amens family went through in 2011 in this home right here. Look at the window. The Amens family recalled seeing shadowy figures just like that one pacing around in the living room. But there were so many other creepier things that happened in the home. In this interview, LaToya talks about how she witnessed her child levitating over their bed and speaking in a really deep voice.
This is the woman who lived in the house of horrors with her 3 children before Zach Bagans bought it. LaToya Ammons fought back tears when she told us how they fled in terror after her daughter was raised right off her bed. She says the demons sounded like this.
We've waited 5 months. He walked up the wall and then the back was flipped.
How did everybody in the hospital react to your son walking up the wall?
They took off and they ran.
I would too. What the heck? I'm gonna have to check up on that story, Sheikers. He lived there for like 3 years and then left.
This is the dirtiest human in the world. Meet Amu Haji. Amu is an 88-year-old man living in Iran, and he hasn't showered in over 65 years. Amu says that he's afraid of water and being clean, and he believes that if he takes a bath, he will get sick and die. Along with being the dirtiest human being on the planet, Amu lives alone in the Iranian desert, and he sleeps every night in holes just like this one. Amu says that he doesn't want to live in a house, but he also doesn't want to live alone for the rest of his life. He also loves to smoke cigarettes, but when he runs out of tobacco, he smokes animal poop instead. Say what you will, but this guy's famous for a reason.
Why do so many cartoon characters wear gloves?
Do you ever wonder why we're always like wearing gloves?
From Mickey to Goofy to Bugs Bunny, they are all fitted with white gloves, but why? During the early days of black and white animation, it helped simplify the process and save time. It also helped their hand gestures stand out more. It was also difficult for audiences to see their black hands against their black bodies. Walt Disney further explained that it helped make the characters more human. This isn't your everyday grandma. Her name is Margaret Ann Neave, but what makes her so special and unique? For starters, she was the first recorded female supercentenarian, meaning she reached the age of 110. Not only that, she was also the first proven individual whose life spanned across 3 centuries. She lived from 1792 until 1903. To put that into perspective, the year she was born, George Washington was still president and construction began on the White House. In the year she died, Teddy Roosevelt was president and the Wright brothers flew their first airplane.
Fun facts until the Orbeez overflow. Perfume has whale poo in it. Depending on where a cow is from, it has an accent to its moo. The Cookie Monster's real name is Sid. They say it once. Sea lions have rhythm. They're the only animal that can clap on beat. There's a spot in Michigan where you can get a unicorn hunting license. Mars is basically a ball of rusted iron. That's why it's red. And it looks like I'm out of time.
If Mars is a ball of rusted iron, why is freaking Elon Musk so obsessed with sending people there? For another purpose, perhaps, man? Because you know that's like Elon Musk's, like, I guess, lifelong dream is to start colonizing on Mars, but I don't think I want to be on an iron planet. I'm pretty sure I like Earth. It's an edit. Ice cream shop? Ice cream?
miners were mining for gold in Canada and they discovered a mammoth. And it was a perfectly preserved mammoth, still with its skin and fur. And whereas this is really cool, that's not the interesting part. They were able to date the mammoth back to 37,000 years ago, which would have been before humans were in North America, or so they thought. When they found the mammoth, he had fractures to his bones that they said looked like human activity. Also, in the area that they found it, they also found what they said looks like traces of traps, fire, and weapons. Little buddy might cause us to rewrite history.
He might. He just might. We've been here. That means there was recorded human activity earlier than what we thought.
Tastiophobia. Megalophobia.
Let's test it. Oh, that's deep. It's like the moon like trying to crash into us or something. Oh no, I don't think I can divide that. Those loops, hell no. Still falling from the sky? All those meteors.
Fun fact. Goldfish Crackers just launched a limited edition rebrand of their classic snack, changing the name to Chilean Sea Bass Crackers. The rebrand is aimed at older consumers to remind them that their favorite childhood snack isn't just for kids. And this is part of multiple well-executed marketing campaigns by Pepperidge Farms. There have previously been limited edition Old Bay seasoning goldfish, Frank's Red Hot Sauce goldfish, Dunkin' Pumpkin Spice goldfish, and Hello Kitty Strawberry Shortcake goldfish, all of which have been aimed at having the snack grow up alongside the consumers who enjoy it, which has worked out really well. In spite of the shrinkflation accusations, goldfish sales have continued to surge, and Goldfish sells about $1 billion worth of crackers annually.
Facts that will mess with your perception of time. Sharks are older than the rings of Saturn by hundreds of millions of years. If you were given $10,000 every single day since the pyramids were built, you would only have about 6% of Elon Musk's entire wealth. To give a clear picture of the difference between a million and a billion, a million seconds ago was a little over a week ago. A billion seconds ago was the year 1990. Jimmy Carter was the first president to be born in a hospital. Obama was the first president born under the same American flag he served as president under. Harriet Tubman was born in Thomas Jefferson's lifetime and died in Reagan's. There were Greek playwrights who wrote shows nearly 2,000 years before Shakespeare was even alive. Follow for more.
These are some extremely unsettling facts, and I found all of these on Reddit. Back when the guillotine was first introduced, people that were on death row would beg to be the very first person that the guillotine would be used on. This is because as it got later on in the day and people had been used on the guillotine, the blade would dull. So essentially, if the guillotine was used on you later in the day, it was possible that it would only partially decapitate you, leaving you conscious but in the worst pain of your life. When whales become too old, they get to a point where they just can't swim up to the surface anymore. The whale will fight and fight to get back up for air, but he won't be able to. He'll drown and sink to the bottom of the ocean. But a positive is that their bodies turn into amazing ecosystems at the bottom of the ocean for some of the fish and stuff that are down there. Now, we've all heard a sitcom laugh track before, right? Basically, to give newer sitcoms the feeling like they were filmed in front of a live audience, the producers and the directors will pump in a bunch of fake laughing sounds. But did you know that most of these laugh tracks were recorded back in 1950? Which means when you hear this, there's a good chance you're listening to dead people laugh. And now look, I know it's not fun to hear all these all the time, but that's why.
That's crazy, man. We need to update those laugh tracks.
Ooh. And they say turtles are slow. Tell that to the fish. Whichever half of the fish you can find. Meet the alligator snapping turtle. These dinosaurs are the largest turtles in North America, getting up to 250 pounds. And as most people know, they're famous for their bite. But I don't think people understand just how unfair they actually are. Basically, they sit underwater perfectly still with their mouth wide open, waiting for some dumb fish to make a mistake. Not to mention, they can sit underwater for an hour straight because they can breathe through their butts. Flex. But they don't need that much time because they also come equipped with bait, which is their tongue. It looks like a worm. That's diabolical. They just get suckered into nature's little trap, which closes with a 1,200-pound bite force. That's the same as a polar bear from a turtle. Moral of the story, if you like all of your fingers, maybe don't mess with Bowser. And as always, follow for more facts.
Facts that will blow your mind.
That is Bowser.
Daniel Radcliffe was allergic to Harry Potter's glasses. Wasabi avocados don't ripen on trees. Olympic gold medals are only partially gold. There's only one flying mammal in the world. You need 10 years of cheesemaking experience to even apply to become a master cheesemaker. You're most likely to die on your birthday. Your dog is as smart as your toddler. McDonald's serves spaghetti in the Philippines. Google was nearly called bankrupt. Follow and comment below which fact blew your mind.
And McDonald's has spaghetti, bro? Who's getting spaghetti from McDonald's?
Like a psychopath? If you can answer this riddle, what's really fucked up? Imagine there are 3 children. The first child loves makeup and has always dreamed of being a hairstylist. The second child loves sports and has always dreamed of playing football. And the third child loves music and has always dreamed of being a famous singer.
Okay.
Fast forward to Christmas Day and each child receives a gift. The first child receives a hairdryer and a hair straightener. The second child receives a football. And the third child receives concert tickets to see their favorite music artist who's on tour during the summer. Yet when the children receive their gifts, they all start crying uncontrollably. But why are they crying? Let me know your answer in the comments and quickly send this to a friend because you need to know if you're friends with a psychopath.
Can any of you guys answer that riddle? I truly don't. Maybe because they didn't get what they wanted for Christmas. That's the only reason why. That's my answer. I'm sticking to it. I wonder what answer makes you a psychopath, bro. That's an edit, bro.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 5. Despite if you're using incognito mode, Wi-Fi routers actually keep logs of what websites you visit, and the owner of the router can check this whenever they want. So hopefully you don't have anything to hide. A woman in Russia had a shit ton of twins, triplets, and quadruplets with the same man, totaling to 69 children.
What
the? Tarantulas taste like shrimp. According to some cannibals, the most delicious part of the human body is the eyeball, and they especially like licking them. The skin on your lips is the same skin that's on your butthole. Dolphins sometimes bite off the head of a fish and masturbate into the decapitated body. A bubble caused by false vacuum decay could be growing through our universe right now, destroying everything it touches, and we would have no idea because it travels at the speed of light. 2020, please no.
That's crazy, especially about tarantulas
Facts
facing
that will
like
blow
shrimp.
your mind. The winner of the North American Wife Carrying Championship gets their spouse's weight in beer. Pizza Hut used to buy more kale than anyone in the US. Divers found the remains of a 27,000-year-old giant sloth stuck in a sinkhole. A flock of ravens is called an unkindness or a conspiracy. In Michigan, you're never further than 6 miles from a body of water. Cell phones are illegal in one West Virginia town. A grizzly polar bear hybrid is either called a growler bear or pizzly bear. Oysters can change sexes. Follow and comment below which fact blew your mind.
About the
The
oysters.
rarest things in the world, part 33. This extremely rare piebald moose was photographed in someone's backyard in Norway last winter. Only 1 in every 20,000 moose is born with this stunning genetic skin mutation. In 2021, identical twin couples gave birth to baby boys at the same time, making them quaternary multiples, which means they are full genetic siblings from identical twin parents. Although technically cousins, the boys are genetically brothers. Svalbard, Norway is the only visa-free zone in the world. This means regardless of citizenship, anyone can work and live there for as long as they want. What were we talking about? The Harvard Art Museum has an amazing collection of the rarest colors in the world. The sources of these pigments include the ground-up shells of extinct insects, toxic metals, and wrappings from ancient Egyptian mummies. One of the colors is a yellow pigment originating from dried cow urine that was only fed mango leaves for its entire life.
Whoa, what the hell? It's an edit. High quality, man, too.
Paget was a party animal who hated school and got terrible grades. But one day, two men savagely robbed and attacked Jason outside of a karaoke bar, leaving him with a severe concussion. The concussion caused him to become a mathematical genius and made him learn fractal geometry, which he had never been taught before. When Derek Amato was 39 years old, he hit his head after diving into a swimming pool and was diagnosed with a concussion and 35% hearing loss. After that, Derek began to see black and white keys in his head, and out of nowhere, he began to play the piano like an expert. Ben McMahon was in a car accident in 2015 and fell into a coma for a week. When he woke up, he could speak perfect Chinese, even though he had only learned the basics as a child. Tony Ciceria was struck by lightning after making a call in a phone booth. Within a couple of days, he was addicted to music, which he wasn't before. After trying the piano, he became a musical artist, composing his own music.
Man, they be like getting real life superpowers, bro.
Top 3 urban legends that turned out to be true. Part 1. Number 3. The sewer crocodile. One of the most famous urban legends is about a crocodile living in the city sewers. While it may sound unbelievable, there have been several cases where crocodiles have been found in sewer systems. For example, in 2010, a young crocodile was discovered in the sewers of New York City, confirming the truth behind this urban legend. Number 2. Spiders and bananas. According to this urban legend, venomous spiders frequently hide in imported banana bunches. This story has proven to be true on multiple occasions. In 2005, a British family found a venomous spider, known as the Brazilian wandering spider, in a bunch of bananas they purchased from a supermarket. This case confirmed that there is some truth to this urban legend. Number 1. The killer. Hiding in the back seat. This urban legend tells the story of a psychopathic killer who hides in the back seat of a person's car and attacks when they are distracted. While it's difficult to find specific cases that exactly match this legend, there have been incidents where dangerous individuals have gained access to the backseat of cars and attacked their occupants. These events have confirmed the importance of being cautious and checking the inside of one's car.
So I found these conspiracy theories that are so believable, they actually might be true.
Talk about it.
Number 1, studies show that cats understand human commands but don't care to follow them. Yeah, I don't like cats. I'm a dog kind of guy. Number 2, it is believed that when you die in a dream, you wake up because your brain doesn't know how to process the idea of what comes after death. Could be. I believe it. Number 3. Now this is scary. The reason Disney came out with a movie called Frozen was so that when you Googled Disney Frozen, you would get information about the movie and not the websites talking about Walt Disney's body being frozen. I mean, I did see an article about this that was published in 1995. Not sure if this is true or not, but I do believe it. This is where it gets freaky. Number 4. Mike Tyson's fight, time traveler. This fight was in 1995. If you look closely, you can see that that could be a smartphone. In fact, it does look like a smartphone to me. There were no smartphones in 1995. This is how phones used to look like in 1995. They didn't have cameras. They barely had any color. But this thing double flashed, exactly like how an iPhone or an Android would take a picture. I don't know about time travel, but this is very interesting. I'd really like to know what this thing was. What's the creepiest conspiracy theory that you heard of?
I think the one that got to me was probably like the time travel joint from Mike Tyson, because he showed us a graphic of those phones. They did not match up at all. I don't know if that could have been like a different version of prototype or something, man, or a different type of camera, but I think that one got to me the most, man. Time travel.
The 3 most dangerous places you should never set foot. Number 3. The Hoia Baciu Forest, located in Romania, is often dubbed the Haunted Forest due to the many paranormal stories reported there. Many visitors have described feelings of anxiety, a sense of being watched, and some even claim to have seen ghostly apparitions. In addition to the inexplicable phenomena, the forest features oddly shaped trees in areas where vegetation doesn't grow at all, heightening its mysterious ambience. Number 2. The Chernobyl zone in Ukraine is the site of the biggest nuclear disaster in history. In 1986, a reactor at the nuclear power plant exploded, releasing significant amounts of radioactive material into the environment.
Today, while some parts of the region are open for strictly controlled tours, others remain highly contaminated by radiation and can pose a severe health hazard. It's crucial to adhere to safety guidelines and not stray off marked paths. Number 1. The Valley of the Kings in Egypt, located on the west bank of the Nile near Luxor, is famous for its royal tombs dating back to ancient Egypt. While it's a popular tourist destination, it comes with risks. Beyond natural dangers like extreme heat and the risk of dehydration, there have been speculations and legends about the Pharaoh's curse, where those who disturb the Pharaoh's tombs would be cursed.
This might ruin your
I ain't going there.
But in the movie Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, there's a really dark joke in there that a lot of people missed. In this scene, you can see the presidents of Mount Rushmore getting pied in the face. But pay attention to Abraham Lincoln. Unlike the other presidents, he gets pied in the back of the head, which is exactly how he was assassinated in life.
Oh, what? I never even picked up on that, man. These movies, man, they have hidden messages. When you're a kid, you just don't get it.
What is going on here? This robot is literally serving drinks at a bar at an event recently hosted by Elon Musk.
There you go.
Our robot.
Everybody, get pictures. Get my good side. Optimus #1. Robots are the future. Hey, how's it going, sir? What can I get you? You want a watermelon? I can't convince you to get the robot? Okay, I'll get you one. Just kidding.
No!
How's your night going so far? There you go. Ice cold beverage.
Now, this robot created by Elon, which he named Optimus, isn't only capable of serving drinks. Apparently, it can do a lot more. Apparently, Optimus can dance and interact with people, and it can do things around the house, like cleaning, cooking, mowing the lawn, taking out the garbage, walking your dogs, and also babysitting. I'm sorry, but if this robot can actually do all these things, then I don't see how people wouldn't want one. Tesla's vision for Optimus is so that people can integrate this robot in their everyday lives so that it can do things that we don't want to do or things that are just repetitive or dangerous. When I first saw this, I immediately thought about iRobot, which came out in 2004, which is funny because the director of iRobot recently accused Elon of copying his designs for his new Tesla products, and he tweeted this. Now, if you see a side-by-side, you can kind of see a resemblance. It's been said that Optimus would first be used internally at Tesla facilities, and then it will expand its productions for other companies, and then eventually for the general public. So it's possible that you can have one of these in your house by 2027. Now, the price for one of these is around 20 to 30K, and Elon mentioned that he is aiming to make it more affordable so that more people can buy it. But if Optimus can really cook, clean, and do my laundry, take my money, Elon. No, but seriously, would you guys actually drop this much money for this? Let me know.
I'll speak for me. No! No! Like, our robot was the blueprint. Didn't you not see what happened in that movie, man? The side-by-side comparisons. The designs, they too similar to me, bro. We seen how that game. They trying to rise up against us. No. I will not be getting that Tesla bot. No. I can't do that.
Conspiracy theory claims that the show was inspired by events that happened in a Bulgarian mental facility called La La Land. Children there were isolated from the others and placed in dark rooms. But apparently 4 of those children died on the same day, inspiring the Teletubbies. Lala apparently had facial disfigurement and was isolated for 5 years, and that inspired the Teletubby Lala. Toy was a deaf, facially disfigured kid who was tied to a fence outside and had gotten frostbitten from the cold. This inspired Tinky Winky. Donka, who was starved and was very, very sick, would lay in his own vomit for days, inspired Dipsy. And finally, Paulina, who had fell into a fire and was roasted alive, inspired Poe. But you won't believe the reason they were called the Teletubbies. You see, the children's main source of entertainment in their rooms were their TVs. They were as small as a small iPad. Sometimes when they heard their toys was going to be confiscated, they would hide them in their mouths. And they had just found out that the institution was going to get rid of the TVs. And they didn't want that, and they couldn't hide the TVs in their mouths. So one of them had the great idea to hide them in their stomachs, because that's the only place they could fit. Mind you, these kids are a little bit not all the way there. So they came up with a plan to rip their insides out in order to fit the TVs inside and hide them. They tried it, and the next morning, the caregiver walked in on all 4 children, dead.
These are facts about Halloween that I
Teletubbies,
bet
Dark
you didn't
Origins.
know. Up first, Halloween is extremely old. Halloween is thought to have originated in 4000 BC, which means Halloween has been around for more than 6,000 years. This is extremely crazy, and I never knew it was this old. Up next, jack-o'-lanterns are actually named after a stingy man named Jack, who, because he tricked the devil several times, he was forbidden access to heaven and hell. He was then condemned to wander Earth, waving his lantern to lead people away from their paths. Next up is a pretty crazy statistic. Americans alone will buy more than 600 million pounds of candy on Halloween. I don't even know why there is this much candy available to buy. And the crazy thing is, I guarantee all this candy gets eaten.
Man, I didn't know Halloween was that old, bro. 6,000 years? How old are the other holidays? Before? He's sitting up. Albert, what was going on? Fire. Man, bro. Kicking those things. Listen to some crazy visual that's going on right now. Whew. We're learning out here today, Seekers, man. These crazy facts. That's why I tune in with you guys, man. I'm always updating my knowledge base. Hopefully you guys are too, man. We learn out here together.
Forbidden to save someone who is drowning. If you like and follow me, you will receive great news today.
Okay. Let's add it, man. Call them out. I've been getting better at spotting them, man. And you guys are too. I see you down in the comments, man, helping me out. I appreciate you guys who do that.
The strangest places in the world, part 1. Firstly, on top of a hill in Pennsylvania, some stones can be found that shouldn't actually be there, because there's no nearby high terrain where they could have originated. These are called the ringing rocks, because whenever something hits these stones, they make a strange ringing noise. Next is the Petrifying Well in England, where water flows from a rock and turns whatever it touches into stone. As you can see, people often leave items like hats, teddy bears, or even bicycles, which appear to have already been turned into stone. Some people believe there's a mystical power, but the scientific reason behind this is the unusually high mineral content in the water, which forms a hard mineral shell on any object it comes into contact with. And within a few months, everything essentially becomes a stone statue.
This is the power of time. These are the footprints of the monk Ha Chi. He stood in his temple for so many years that the floorboards warped around his feet. He prays over 3,000 times a day and always stands in the same place. This bronze arm was attached to a tree when it was just a baby. It was attached in 1968 and the tree actually grew around it. And today the arm is permanently attached to the tree. And this is a corner of a bike store that's been around for over 50 years. Customers park there every day and it's been wearing down ever since.
Hell in Different Religions, Part 2.
Time is powerful.
Buddhism. In Buddhism, after you die, you can be reborn into one of the 6 realms of reincarnation. Which realm you'll be put into depends on your actions in your previous life. The lowest realm possible is the realm of Naraka, which is hell. Now, there are different Narakas you can be put into. It just depends on how bad you were in your previous life. Each of these Narakas having vastly different punishments. And the climates of the different Narakas can range from incredibly cold to boiling hot. But the time spent in Naraka is never eternal. Once you've served your punishment, you'll be reborn once again. But the time one does spend in Naraka can be hundreds of millions of years, or well beyond that.
That long down there? Hundreds of millions of years?
The Muffin Man is actually
for me.
a serial killer. You know the Muffin Man nursery rhyme, right? But did you know it was based on a dark, true story? 1 second. Chocolate chip. Tastes like your mama wrote it. But yeah, the story is darker than you think. Because in the 1800s, there was a man named Frederick Thomas Linwood. And he would wait lurking in alleys, looking for his next victims. And they would always be kids. You see, he would kidnap them and unalive them, luring them in with muffins. I mean, what kid wouldn't want a tasty snack? When the townspeople got word of what was happening, they decided to come together and figure out a way to prevent this, to spread awareness amongst the kids and keep them safe, warning them about the Muffin Man, who was a danger on Drury Lane. You're walking past the alleyway, and the Muffin Man gets you. Your fourth act sees this and tries to rescue you. Let me know who it is, and let me know if you think you'd be doomed or not. Anyways, he's one of the first documented serial killers in the world. And everyone still teaches this song to their kids, even children TV shows. And yet nobody knows that.
The Muffin Man? You know I know the Muffin Man because of Shaq. The Muffin Man? Then I found out that it really was a dark origins. The first documented, you know what, man? They put this stuff in our medias when we're kids and things, but like I said, we never notice it, man. Once you grow up, bro, you realize your childhood is very different.
You won't believe this little boy actually exists. This boy, Nanyo Sui from China, was born with glowing eyes. People were curious why his eyes glow blue, so they ran a test on him. They put him in pitch black with cards and a note, and he read them perfectly. His eyes seem to have a genetic ability of cats and other nocturnal animals. Scientists have been a little skeptical, but people say he can see in full darkness perfectly, like a superhero.
Damn. You got night vision, bro.
In the year 2067, you'll have to pay for oxygen or suffocate to death. This movie is called 2067 and we have to talk about it. It's set in the future after climate change destroyed all plants on Earth. In Australia, only one city survived. And that's because of a company called Chronocorp Corporation, and they make artificial oxygen. But breathing in this artificial oxygen causes a strange sickness over time. Here's where the main character, Ethan White, comes in. He's a mechanic at the company, but one day everything changes. The leader of the company calls Ethan into their lab and revealed this giant machine. She says Ethan is the only person who can stop humanity from going extinct, and Ethan is confused. Then we see Ethan has like a weird device on his wrist. And we find out 20 years ago his dad put that device on him for an experiment and never told him. Turns out this machine is actually pretty much a time machine. And it sent back a secret message from the future. When they decoded the message, they realized it said, "Send Ethan White." Ethan obviously does not want to go, but his wife is sick from breathing in too much artificial oxygen, so he finally agrees, leaves her a note, and goes into the time machine to be sent to the year 2474. When he gets there, he realizes all the plants have been restored, but no humans are anywhere. Then he finds a locked door with a skeleton in front of it. As he looks closer, he realizes the skeleton is himself. It even has the same wrist device, except the light has turned green. So why did his dad actually put that device on him all those years ago? And why is he the chosen one to save humanity? There's a huge plot twist in the end, and I just thought this story was so interesting. So go watch it and let me know what you think. And follow for more movies and stories.
Should I check that out, man? That actually piqued my interest. I wonder what that plot twist is, man. Any of you seekers actually watched that movie 2067? I'm gonna have to check that out.
3 extremely disturbing facts you won't believe are actually true. Number 3. In a bizarre case, an Ohio man was mistakenly declared dead by the Social Security Administration in 1979. Upon discovering this error in 1994, he immediately initiated legal action to restore his status as a living person. However, a judge refused to overturn the decision. stating that there was a 3-year limit to challenge such a declaration.
What?
As a result, this man is legally living as a deceased person in his own country. Number 2. There's a disturbing practice at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. The chicks that hatch live in front of visitors in their chick hatching exhibit are then sent to the Brookfield Zoo where they are fed to predator animals. This is a shocking truth hidden behind a seemingly innocent exhibit. Number 1. Disneyland and Disney World are iconic places, often associated with joyful family memories. However, there's a strange phenomenon that occurs in these parks. People so frequently scatter the ashes of their loved ones there that Disney had to establish a special procedure to deal with it. A dedicated team is ready to intervene as soon as an ash scattering is reported, cleaning up the area to maintain the park's joyful atmosphere.
Here's some facts that'll
That's
instantly
insane.
make you smarter. Part 1. Bananas are not actually fruits, they're herbs. And this is because the stem of the banana is succulent and not wood. Scientists say that it's less likely to rain on a Monday than any other day of the week. Reason is that Mondays carry less pollution over the weekend. If you drop a piece of toast, it'll almost always land butter side down. Try this one out and let me know. And finally, the hardest language for an English speaker to learn is Japanese, Chinese, Arabic, or Korean.
Oh, really? Never knew
Scary
that.
facts that will make your skin crawl. BT.3. If you're wearing earplugs listening to music, and you hear someone calling you or the door knocking, there is no one calling. It's the ghost informing you of their presence. The inventors of the Ouija board claim it got its name when they asked it what it should be called. They also asked it what Ouija meant, and it replied, "Good luck." If you're walking and you feel someone behind you, it's a ghost looking at you. The human body can feel the presence of ghosts.
I think I felt something like that before, man. When somebody's staring at you,
Proof that mermaid.
but you can't identify what it is. I feel like a chill down my spine. Is this cap a fact, man? They put a GoPro on a shark. But that is true, man. Like how, isn't it scary how like they said like 80% of our ocean is like undiscovered, or we haven't even like reached the full potential of it yet. So there's things down there that we don't even have no idea what it is. If you think about it, man. Something to think on. We hear that? I'm hitting the jets. I'm out.
Today I learned that if your parent calls you by your sibling's name, it's not because they're playing favorites, but rather it's a cognitive glitch. This misnaming phenomenon is due to our mental semantic network categorizing people into different social groups or relationship bonds, according to a 2016 study published in the Memory and Cognition Journal by Samantha Deffler. When I say spoon, you might think of a fork. Similarly, when a mom calls for her daughter, the concept of her daughter is also linked to her son, so she may accidentally call her daughter by her son's name. It was also found that some family members accidentally call each other by their family's dog's name. Deffler also recalls one young man accidentally calling his girlfriend by his sister's name, to which the girlfriend responded, "That's probably a bad sign." Misnaming also occur phonetically when initial or internal sounds sound the same, like John, Johnny, or Bob, but physical appearance and gender was proven to not be a factor. So next time someone calls you by a different name, don't take it personally, but it does give you a clue that your name belongs to a certain relationship bond in that person's mind. Alright, that's all. This is Shanksta, over and out.
This
Interesting
video shows
facts.
different sizes of animal eggs. We're starting off with really tiny eggs.
Okay.
So obviously, these ones are no bigger than a Tic Tac. But don't worry, guys. We're gonna get much, much bigger.
Wow, okay.
Platypus, I didn't know platypus had really tiny eggs.
Damn.
Sea turtles, yes, okay.
American marlins,
Quail
quail.
eggs. Now, have you guys tried quail eggs? I definitely have, and they're very, very tasty. Chicken eggs, the average, that's the standard.
That's
for
the
eggs,
biggest
right?
one.
Crocodile eggs, they look like Tic Tacs, honestly.
Kiwi,
Kiwi eggs,
damn.
how do they even come out of that? Of the kiwi
A
bird.
flamingo, I'm guessing.
Okay, dragon eggs, I didn't know they existed. Okay, I thought it was a mammoth and mammoth could lay eggs, but obviously it don't. It was a mammoth bird.
Xenomorph, what the f?
Getting in territories where these animals don't exist, and Godzilla egg is taller than a human.
What the hell?
Personas que ganaron superpoderes después de trágicos accidentes. Parte 2. Natasha Denkina, una mujer rusa nacida en el año 1987. A los 10 años tuvo que ser operada de apendicitis y eso cambió completamente su vida. Después de la operación, Natalia afirmaba que tenía visión de rayos X. Como nadie la creía, unos médicos la llevaron a un hospital de niños para ver si sus poderes eran reales. Para sorpresa de todos, diagnosticó correctamente a todos los niños. Su visión de rayos X era real. Ahora se dedica a ayudar a las personas y a los médicos a encontrar enfermedades. Cuando Ben Underwood nació, parecía un chico completamente sano. Pero a los 3 años, por culpa de una enfermedad, le tuvieron que extirpar los 2 ojos. Pero a partir de ese suceso desarrolló la ecolocalización. Ben podía ver a la perfección con sus oídos y podía hacer cualquier tipo de cosa como una persona sin problemas de visión.
I know those are all
Beauty standards from around the world that you probably didn't know about. Women from the Mercy tribe in Ethiopia removed their 4 lower front teeth and cut a hole in their bottom lip. Then they put in a plug to stretch their lips until they can insert a full-size lip plate. This can take many months to do, but the lip plates are symbols of beauty and identity, and they're often worn by unmarried women in hopes of seeming more feminine and finding a rich husband. These plates are changed regularly and each time increasing in size, and this tradition has existed for over 10,000 years. Follow if you want to see more.
That's insane to think about.
Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run.
Austria.
The most disgusting things actors had to do for a role.
Okay.
Do you guys remember this scene in Harry Potter when all the kids gathered for a feast with all this delicious food? Well, every time they filmed the scene, they couldn't replace the food, so it started to rot and smelled terrible. And the actors said it got so bad they could smell the stench before even walking on set. In Game of Thrones, Castle Black looked super disgusting on screen and was just as disgusting in real life. The set decorators hung raw meat from the ceilings, had real pigs wandering around, and didn't clean up for weeks at a time, which made the actors have an easy time pretending to be miserable and cold because it actually was. For the Hunger Games, Jennifer Lawrence took acting to the extreme and actually ate a raw fish in order to get into the skin of her character. She said the crew told her it would taste like sushi. Hint, it did not. She said it tasted as bad as it smells and that she's never doing that again.
They lie, bro.
Let's see if you have thalassophobia, part 3. I'm going to show you 5 photos. If you feel too uncomfortable to make it to the 5th photo, then you could have thalassophobia. Number 1. How about this? Feeling uncomfortable yet?
Still good.
Nearly there. Last one. Hit follow to see if you can make it to the next phobia test.
I made it all the way to the end. I don't think I have that phobia. They all getting freaking extinct but then reintroduced.
Your brain's storage capacity is around 2.5 million gigabytes. Smell is the sense most closely linked to memory. Your short-term memory can only handle about 7 thoughts at once. You forget 50% of new information within an hour. And this fact really annoyed me, so I tried to come up with a solution and stumbled across Plurl. It's an AI-based device that can transcribe any audio recording to text in seconds. Luckily, it's simple, so when I need to remember something, I just start with the one-press voice recording on the Plurl device. And once complete, I just click transcribe. And boom, it's done. I have the whole transcription ready for use, and it's perfect. Or I can just select to create a summary and choose the style I'm looking for. For example, to find the most important points in a long meeting or create an audio report of that file. So I'm never going to forget something important ever again as long as I have this device with me. You can get it to link in bio.
Learn some new info. Oh, for that kind of makes sense about the short-term memory because I know I'll be forgetting stuff that I know I'm supposed to know. It always gets to me, man.
is one of the scariest places on Earth. It's located in a small town in Mexico. Its actual name is Castillo del Diablo, and it was built by a painting contractor named Tony Wells. He spent almost $4 million on the castle, and it's become a worldwide attraction. In the castle, you can find coffins, creepy mannequins, and gargoyles. Wells has a collection of over 800 swords and knives, and about 350 beautiful antique mirrors. Often, Satan worshippers leave him presents, even though Tony does not believe in Satan. Would you dare spend a night in this place?
That's a hell no. I'm new. I stay away from that type of energy, man. But he actually poured $4 million into that. That's a lot of money, bro. Just to build something like that. That's we stay away from that energy, seekers.
Crazy things happening in the world right now. New York City is now giving rats birth control to stop them from reproducing. This restaurant sued this customer for leaving a $3,000 tip for his waitress. Pablo Escobar's abandoned hippos are still causing problems in the Colombian jungle. A motel in Kentucky was ordered to pay $2 million after one of their guests passed away in a 150-degree shower. Karen was the most popular baby name 60 years ago, and now it is nearly extinct. Florida police are telling people to stop taking selfies with a depressed black bear. EasyJet is apologizing after leaving 3 passengers with disabilities on the runway. A Japanese political candidate was stripping on national TV and asking viewers if they thought she was sexy. A game developer was demanding naked sauna sessions with his employees. 5 fishermen in Sri Lanka passed away after drinking water from a bottle they found in the ocean.
These are the scariest
I'm
serial
supposed to
killers
do
in
that.
each state, part 1. Up first is Nanny Doss from Alabama, also known as the Giggling Granny. She married 5 times and murdered 4 of her husbands, and the only one that survived was her first husband. She also poisoned 11 of her family members. Her first 2 victims were her children, who allegedly died from food poisoning. She got the nickname the Giggling Granny because she would always laugh at the crime she committed. She killed 11 people and is definitely the scariest serial killer from Alabama.
She was laughing? No remorse, man. Watch out for those type of people.
This is the world's first passenger plane that doesn't have a pilot because it's being flown by AI. What could go wrong? The concept was revealed at the National Business Aviation Association event in Orlando, Florida. And the idea is to create a fully autonomous passenger jet that has similar benefits to self-driving cars. They believe AI could reduce human error, which is the leading cause of accidents, making air travel safer than ever. Because there would be no need for pilots, it could reduce costs, it could improve efficiency and reduce delays because planes could fly 24/7 without needing to rest for crew. And more personalized, on-demand flight options could emerge, like Uber for the skies. But then again, you would have to put your complete trust in AI 40,000 feet in the sky. So the question is, should this be made or scrapped immediately? Here are 3 options.
I'm gonna go with scrap, bro, because with AI, like, you never know. Somebody could hack and take over that plane, or it can glitch, man. You know, AI is still not perfect, man. And you putting your life at the hands of technology at 40,000, like I said, feet in the air. That's no, man. They need to scrap that.
Optical illusions, which I guarantee will make your brain hurt. First one, make that your phone background, I dare you. Wait, I've got another one for you. Second one, that makes me feel a bit sick. Let's see the last one. Now go give your eyes a rest.
Were they moving for you guys? They wasn't moving for me though, so. But I know those are probably some crazy optical illusions. Let's edit, man. We call them out. Like I said, if you guys see any edits, I need you guys to help me. Call them out too.
This woman did you-know-what with 919 men in one single day. Lisa Sparks set this record back in 2004 at the annual World Championships in Poland. She was competing against 2 other women, one of which was the current record holder who did you-know-what with 759 people in one day.
What the?
But the craziest part is Lisa set this record in only 12 hours, meaning she only spent 45 seconds with each man.
No. How is something like that even possible? She beat it in 12 hours. What happened to Shane, bro? That's insane. He's actually a world record for that? I'm scared to even look up who has the current record, bro. I don't think I want to know.
Interesting people you've never heard of. This man from Australia survived a wildfire by scuba diving in his pool while the wildfire was burning all around him. This man in his 40s fathered somewhere between 550 to 600 children. Because of this, he was court-ordered to stop donating his sperm. This man has fathered over 100 kids but has not been paid for it and even pays child support for some of them. A man in Louisiana who was pulled over by a police officer for drunkenly riding on a horse gave the excuse that the horse knows the way home. The sheriff ended up not giving him a DUI. This Englishman bought this island 60 years ago, moved to it, and never returned. This is what he looks like now after planting over 16,000 trees, attracting a bunch of different species of animals, and even making it a national park. This guy holds the world record for reciting pi to 22,514 digits in just under 5 hours, and he knows 11 languages.
Damn, he Jimmy Neutron.
Water slide in the whole world. This is known as the Leap of Faith. It's one of the most beautiful constructed slides in the entire world. But despite its beauty, it's actually known to be one of the most dangerous water slides. This slide consists of a 60-foot drop and was created back in 1998. But if that's not scary enough, it actually gets crazier. After the 60-foot drop, the riders are then sent through a lagoon of sharks. They're kept inside of the tube while the sharks are swimming around them.
He was 2 years old when he survived 4th-degree burns.
The candle fell. The fire spread quick and then into a blanket. And then it all caught on fire.
Zaid Garcia was only a toddler when his mother put him to bed and a candle fell on his blankets, causing his entire bed to set on fire. He was rushed from Mexico to San Antonio for treatment, where he had multiple surgeries, and doctors thought that he wasn't going to make it, but he did. 80% of Zaid's body was burnt, and he lost both of his hands and 5 toes. His eyes were also severely burnt, so doctors covered his eyes with his skin so it can help them heal. Zaid said that he's able to only see shadows and light, but hopes to regain his vision one day and remove the skin from his eyes. He's now 19 years old, and his story is a miracle since most people don't survive 3rd-degree burns. But what shocks me the most is despite everything Zaid has been through, he's still so positive and optimistic.
When you share your story with somebody, how do you hope they react?
Well, I know it'll make them sad, but I hope that it gets to their heart, and I hope it gives them hope and faith on themselves too. I know they might feel bad for me and everything, but I hope they think, well, if he did it, I could do it too.
Inspiring. Okay. Okay.
interacted with her, and since she was always working, he was always working, they never really saw each other. However, a month after moving in, Carla started to feel a bit uncomfortable with Edward. She told her mom that she didn't like him because he was dirty, and she didn't want to confront him about it because she didn't want to start any kind of problems. She felt like there was something else that she didn't like about him, but she just couldn't figure it out. On the night of June 11th, Carla had texted a few of her coworkers that she was scared because her roommate had made his way into her room. Carla was on a video call with her coworkers when Edward entered the room and attacked her with an axe. Both coworkers called the police. They rushed over to Carla's apartment, and when they got there, they saw Edward outside with the axe and he was shirtless. When Edward saw the police officers arriving, he rushed towards them to attack them with the axe, and they shot him and he died at the scene. The officers went up to Carla's apartment and they found her on the floor, lifeless with multiple head injuries. On June 26, Carla's ashes were sent back to Chile where her loved ones could see their final demise.
Deadliest computer viruses in the world, part 3. This is the infamous no-escape virus. You'll see exactly why it's called that. So we're going to open it up here and then click run, and then run again. Allow this publisher to make changes, yes. This malware is no joke. Continue. Hell yeah. Alright, now let me show you what happens. First thing, the computer restarts itself. A classic virus move. Boots back up and we have stage 1. Background and theme change to this red looking vibe. Stage 2, Windows loads with a bunch of spam user accounts, all with a bunch of weird characters, each password protected. And the main admin account is called No Escape. At this point, most keys on your keyboard would be disabled. Stage 3, admin password is set to death, all lowercase, so we punch that in to log on. Stage 4, all files on your computer are deleted and your desktop is filled with these junk files, all with those same strange characters. Stage 5, your mouse buttons are swapped, so left click is right and right is left. If you open up any of these files in Notepad, it just says this: your computer is mine. You cannot get rid of this malware. Stage 6, you can't really do anything with your computer anymore, and on September 18th, it will delete the Windows bootloader, meaning that you can't even turn it on. So yeah, let me know if you're interested in trying this out, and I'll send you that download link.
Who wants to fry their computer intentionally? That's a hell no for me. Yeah, be careful with those links you click on, man. They be trying to get you. So far, thankfully, I've avoided all of those.
You will not believe how this woman stalker found her. In 2019, police in Tokyo arrested a 26-year-old man by the name of Fumiki Sato, who was suspected of following home a young female pop star and whom he later moved on to assault and molest as she was walking into her apartment complex. But how did he find out exactly where she was? Well, that's the scary part. It was said that Sato screenshotted one of the girl's social media posts in which he zoomed into her eyes, and in her eyes you could see the reflection of a very famous landmark, and that's how he found her location. He then proceeded to use Google Street View, where he would find the exact coordinates of the landmark that was reflected in the girl's eye. This is when he would move on to this location and commit the horrific acts on this young woman. So guys, this is why it's very important to be careful about what you post on social media, because he found her through a reflection in her eyes. Who's to say it couldn't happen to you?
Top 4 most
Be careful what you
horrifying
post.
places in the ocean. 1. Hot Tub of Despair, Gulf of Mexico. This is 3,300 feet below the surface of the ocean. It is a very real, very deadly version of Goo Lagoon, where it killed Mr. Krabs and most of the fish in that show as well, because this is a really toxic mix of super salty water, methane, and hydrogen sulfide that basically kills any sort of organism that goes near it. Too is Sirena Deep. This is the 3rd deepest part of our ocean, and it's absolutely horrifying for a lot of reasons. First of all, we have no clue what lives down there, but basically it looks something like this, completely dark and devoid of life with crushing pressure and freezing cold water, and it's really scary and empty and dark. 3. The East Siberian Sea. It's basically filled with ticking time bombs of giant methane pockets that may or may not explode in the near future because of global warming. The fact they're under a bunch of ice, and when they do explode, it'll release a lot of damaging chemicals, and it also will make the water around them boil and probably kill anything that's in that water with it. 4. The Ring of Fire, or the outline of the entire Pacific Ocean. This is a very large area of seismic and volcanic activity. Among other things, this is also where the largest mountains and volcanoes are on our planet, which is kind of horrifying.
Gotta take care of our planet, bro, or it's gonna erupt.
This woman shocked everyone at this carnival game because in order to win, you have to hang on to the bar for 2 minutes, which doesn't seem like a long time. But if you've ever tried this, you'll understand just how difficult this simple task is. But what the employees didn't know is that she's actually a rock climber, so this wouldn't even be a challenge for her. And as the time winded down, with no signs of struggle to be seen, she eventually got down to the final seconds, out with a small crowd forming in order to witness what would happen. And just watch what she does when the timer ends.
What the heck? That is hard. That's impressive. Could you guys do a Seekers? 2 minutes?
Do you think you could beat this game? Whatever it was that really happened in the Hotel President was one of the most disturbing mysteries in American history. This is January 2nd, 1935, when the Hotel President in Kansas City, Missouri got a very strange visitor. This very unusual young man who checked in under the name of Roland T. Owen. He was eventually going to be placed in room 1046. And over a period of days, the maid staff just kind of routinely entered the room because it was always dark in there, so they assumed nobody was in there. Every time they walked in, what they would actually find was Roland T. Owen sitting on the bed in a suit in complete darkness, doing nothing. The most disturbing of all was really what took place on January 4th. Hotel staff had entered the room because of a disconnected phone line, and when they got in there, Roland T. Owen was found on the ground, covered in blood, and he had been stabbed multiple times. And just before he died, they asked him, who did this to you? Which he just said, no one. Even more bizarre, an anonymous caller who was allegedly a woman called in and paid for his entire funeral. If you do want more to the story, I would go check it out right on the show.
Yeah, we gotta check that out, man. Like, what the hell? It sounds like a very deep mystery, man. Need to find that.
Breaking news, Bella Brave has been put into a medically induced coma, and they do not believe she is going to make it. Many of you may recognize her from being a star on this app. You may also know her as Bella Brave. Now, as of July 10th, her mother has posted that she has been medically induced in a coma. She said, quote, "They've told us they don't know if she'll survive this. I know she will. I know she has an army praying for her." Her mother shared that Bella had developed an infection in her lungs and also may have developed a form of bronchitis. Doctors say the type of bronchitis that she developed is, quote, irreversible and a chronic condition. It is also known as popcorn lung. On July 9th, her mother posted that although Bella was, quote, sitting up, she began to struggle. She went on to say, quote, she lost 4 pounds in 1 day, putting all her energy into breathing. Her CO2 started to increase, and she started to doze off and have delirium. She was alert enough to tell me she turned into a piece of bread, and she also knew that she was at the Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. She continued by saying they knew at that point they needed to sedate her and intubate her before she crashed. We left having them tell us they didn't know if she'll make it through the night, but she did. However, the following day, her mother said that she was placed into a medically induced coma. The best of the best were telling us it looked really bad. But I kept lifted stare, intensely listening until I heard what hope there was left that we could hang on to. She has also shared that Bella was put on a large dose of steroids. She said this is the one option they have left to help her lungs work again. Day 3 will give us more information on how soon we could see her lung function improve. She's stable, and that in itself is an improvement for now. To stay up to date on this case, make sure you click the playlist below. Prayers for Bella, and I'll keep you guys updated. What do you guys think? Drop in the comments.
Prayers, man.
Scary Christmas Urban Legends, Part 1. Hopefully you're not eating right now, because this one's gonna make you lose your appetite. So this is mincemeat pie. Apparently people actually like this and like to eat it during Christmas time. Legend goes that it was created in the 16th century as a way for humans to cook and eat other humans. You heard me correctly, humans were added to this dish. And apparently this rumor or legend is why mincemeat pies no longer have meat in them. At least most don't anymore. Delicious. Like and follow for more weird shit like this.
I've never had that before.
The way you see the world. This is a prediction of what the world is going to look like 250 million years from now. These are the CO2 emissions across the Indian subcontinent, with the lightest, whitest areas being the highest. This map shows all of the foreign military presence that is sitting in Africa right now. This map shows the most valuable Italian brands and where exactly they came from. If you draw a straight line between the northernmost point and southernmost point in the contiguous United States, along with the westernmost point to the easternmost point, the lines do not intersect. This map shows what the size of the Great Lakes would look like if it was in Europe. This map shows which state you could find the highest percentage of people with ancestry from every European country. This map shows where every popular sitcom took place. Every red dot on this map is a football pitch or a soccer field if you're from the United States. This map shows that in 1990, most of the United States had 15% or less obese adults in their state, where less than 30 years later, now almost every state has more than 25% obesity rates.
That's a shame.
shy compared to the other kids, so she'd just been sitting with her mom on the home first baseline to watch the game. But apparently she was so excited when two kids came over and asked her if she wanted to go catch fireflies. She repeatedly asked her mom, and so calling me then, even though it was getting dark. But she had no idea Billy Jack Lynx was also there, and allegedly parked right next to their car. Moreover, she says that when she saw her daughter for the last time, she was running up this hill and past the fences to that exact same parking area. Now, when the game ended that night around 10:30, all of the other kids came running back down to the field, but Morgan wasn't with them. Immediately, Colleen asked them where she had gone off to, and they told her that she had just sat down for a second to get the sand out of her shoes. So Colleen went up there and started looking around, but she couldn't find her anywhere. And by 11 p.m. that night, everyone was searching the ballpark, and eventually officers decided to take the area off as a crime scene. It turns out the kids who were with Morgan that night had seen something worth mentioning. There was a man with a scruffy beard who had come up to them, and they couldn't quite place it, but something about him and his red truck just didn't fit. Now with this, police asked everyone to send in their home footage from the games that night, and they found a truck that matched the one the kids were talking about. Nothing immediately came from this new lead, but then about 2 months later, there was another attempted abduction. It was determined that Billy Jack Lynx had tried to take an 11-year-old girl from a local Sonic, and he was driving what appeared to be the exact same truck. Now that same year, 95, the connection here was made, and Lynx was interviewed about Morgan's disappearance. His car was also sent on for testing, and they even found human blood, but from what I can tell, all of the initial evidence in this case was lost. Then in 2019, a new team finally came in to take over this case, and it was so disappointing because they could have had the technology now to match that blood to Morgan. So they started over trying to track down this truck 25 years later, and somehow after several different owners, they had found it. In 2020, investigators, quote, vacuumed various locations of the truck, and now they say they have a blonde hair that has to match Morgan or someone in her family. They also say the strongly suggests that Morgan was in Billy's vehicle the night she disappeared, and while he died in 2000, they also have an idea of where he took her after the abduction. They focused in on an area about 10 minutes away that's down by the river, where a group of kids actually saw his truck later that night, and what appeared to be a man holding someone down in the front seat. Tragically, it is believed that Morgan may have been taken with the floodwater that year. Today, she still remains missing. Investigators are trying to figure out everything they can about Billy's life, likely to see if he has any more victims.
Facts that will ruin your life. Baby chicks, while very sweet, are often grinded up. In many large factories, if they're baby roosters, they're just tossed into a grinder. Pretty gross. Did you know that in the United States alone, every year, around 2,500 people die from using right-handed equipment that were originally left-handed? Sucks to be left-handed. George Bush Sr. was the only man to survive after his plane was shot down in World War II by Japanese soldiers. Out of the 9 men that were cannibalized and eaten on by Japanese soldiers, Bush was somehow the only one to survive. Hopefully you like burgers because Inuit mothers actually suck the snot out of their baby's nose. Nasty. Did you know there's actually 200 corpses right now on Mount Everest? Due to the body's elevation, they're actually left up there and perfectly preserved to the extreme climate and temperatures. They're used as guide points for climbers and hikers. Comment and let me know which fact disturbed you the most.
Basically, it's a graveyard, man. That's
This
the
is
best way to
without a
put
doubt
it.
the creepiest mugshot I've ever seen. This is 33-year-old Solomon Galligan. He is an S offender that tried to kidnap a little boy from an elementary school in Colorado. This entire ordeal happened last Friday, and he went up to multiple children. Before police arrived, he tried to grab the young boy and flee, but that was unsuccessful, so he just fled to begin with. He was later caught by police and charged with 1 count of kidnapping. As a result, the elementary school and the surrounding areas are increasing security and police presence. But bro, this mugshot is definitely the creepiest shit I've ever seen. There's not a single feeling of remorse or regret in those eyes. He's now being held on a $25,000 bond. He had a similar incident in 2012 and he failed to register as an offender. Now, luckily, the little boy that he tried to kidnap was unharmed. And this also happened while the kids were at recess. I'm not sure how this happened. I feel like when I was growing up in recess, all of the teachers would be watching us.
Yeah.
They definitely need to step up security. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comment section below. And as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Movie bloopers that are better than the actual movie. In The Dark Knight, while Joker sits in a jail cell, he overhears Detective Gordon get promoted to commissioner. Naturally, the rest of his squad applauds him, but then they hear the Joker clapping in the background. The Joker's creepy clap wasn't in the script, but it fit the scene so well they kept it in. In the show Friends, Matthew Perry actually hits his head on a filing cabinet.
Please, just...
Well, this was a total accident, and Jennifer Aniston's reaction was completely genuine. In this scene in Spider-Man Homecoming, Tony Stark leans over to open the door, but Peter Parker hugs him instead. This wasn't in the script, but Tom Holland thought it would be funny, which led to Robert Downey Jr. improvising this line on the spot.
That's not a hug, I'm just grabbing the door for you. We're not.
Classic.
In How the Grinch Stole Christmas, in this scene, everything was supposed to fall off when Jim Carrey pulled the tablecloth. But it didn't go as planned, so he had to improvise. This wasn't in the script, but it was so funny they kept it in.
Records that will never be broken again. Number 1, the woman with the most children. Back in the 1800s, a Russian woman named Vasiliev gave birth to 69 total children. She had 16 pairs of twins, 7 triplets, and 4 quadruplets. And no one has come close to matching that number since. Number 2, the most nuclear explosions ever survived. This is Tsutomu Namaguchi. He has survived 2 different nuclear explosions. Tsutomu was on a business trip when the first nuclear bomb was dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. After miraculously surviving that explosion, he returned to his hometown of Nagasaki just in time to witness the second atomic bombing. But again, he miraculously survived and lived till the age of 93.
That's rough.
Facts that will probably keep you up at night. One of your photos that you have today will be used in your funeral. There are more slaves today than any other time in history. According to the founder of the Walk Free Foundation, there are 46 million slaves in the world today. Your eyes can still move after your death for 15 to 30 seconds. Watching TV for more than 2 hours a day can shorten your life expectancy by 1.4 years. In 1977, we received a radio signal from space that lasted 42 seconds. To this day, no one knows where that signal came from. A lit candle causes more than 15,000 house fires every year. Spider rain could happen at any moment above you. Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise in the 2017 version of It, was born in 1990, the year the original It was released. Yeah.
Those are some creepy coincidences, man. Spider rain? I've never heard of something like that before, but I definitely don't want to experience that, man. Imagine you just walking outside, normal day, just see a whole bunch of freaking spiders coming down. You like, what in the world is this world coming to, man? How does something like that even happen?
If you see him while you're awake, run. So this story actually comes from a Reddit user who's a therapist. And this user had a patient who was coming in complaining of seeing Hatman at night. This patient would apparently wake up in the middle of the night to see Hatman standing at the foot of their bed, watching them sleep. And as a result, they were not really sleeping much. So the therapist prescribed some pretty heavy sleeping medication, and as a result, the patient starts getting a little better. But then one day, the patient comes in and just looks like they had seen a ghost. So the therapist asked them what was wrong, and they said that as they were getting in the car to come to therapy, they saw Hatman standing across the street during the day. This therapist had only ever heard of Hatman when it came to patients waking up in the middle of the night and seeing him, never when they were already awake doing things in the middle of the day. So the patient is terrified, but the therapist thinks this might be a side effect of the medication. It takes a little while to get used to. But that was the last time the patient ever came to see the therapist.
Yeah, man, is he real? Cap.
Scary facts that will blow your mind, Part 2. The Hoia Baciu Forest is considered the most haunted forest in all of Romania. Hundreds of people have gone missing within these woods, among other things like screams, laughter, babies crying, people being attacked by unseen paranormal forces, strange balls of light, UFOs, and in the very center of the forest lies a clearing where no plant life will grow. It is believed that this spot is a portal to another dimension. What do you think? Like and follow for more.
Okay, that one, the most haunted freaking forest of Romania, man, where all those plants not growing and how they said it can be ported there. I definitely want to check up on that one because that sounds interesting, man. Like, no plants are going in that whole open area. That space is just like a freaking, looked like a crop circle. What do you guys think? Is that a dimension to another
incident has
reality?
made people on the internet so upset because this woman went up to a teen and pulled down her skirt because she thought it was too short. Even if you think this skirt is too short, I think we can all agree that you cannot go up to a child and touch them. The teen said that this woman approached her from behind and basically put her hand in her area. This woman, who is a 49-year-old Ida Lorenzo, said to the girl and her friends, "I happen to work for the state, and if I have to see your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS."
I happen to work for the state, and if I have to watch your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS. You don't need to touch her off.
Now, let's be real for a second. If this was a man who did this to a young girl, police would be called immediately and there would be no excuses. They were waiting at a restaurant to be seated and she basically felt like it was inappropriate for this young girl to be dressed like this in front of everyone. Which, if you feel that way, then you can leave. You should never be putting your hands on anyone. She was eventually charged with sexual battery, which I'm glad, because you can't be putting your hands on anyone, especially kids.
She said it perfectly. No words needed on that clip. Everything to a T.
Here are 5 regular things that are illegal in North Korea. Number 1, wearing jeans. In North Korea, wearing jeans is a symbol of their enemy America. Number 2, turning off the radio. All houses come with a government-installed radio that makes announcements through the day. Number 3, practicing religion. Reading a Bible can get you publicly executed. Number 4, watching foreign films. Watching foreign films can get you executed or sent to a labor camp. And number 5, listening to foreign music. All music has to be Kim Jong-un approved.
You were taught that you probably
Never
still
going to
believe.
North Korea.
Number 1, that cracking your knuckles will cause arthritis. While cracking your knuckles might sound and look damaging, it does not cause arthritis. That loud pop that you hear when you crack your knuckles is caused by bubbles bursting in your synovial fluid, and the bubbles pop when you pull the bones apart. Blood in your veins is blue. If you look down at your arm, you can probably see your veins and see they look blue. However, your blood is not actually blue in your veins. Blood is either red or dark red, but never blue. Your veins look blue because of your skin. Blue light does not penetrate human tissue as deeply as red light does, and as a result, veins that are close to the surface of the skin will be more likely to reflect blue light back to your eyes. You can hear the sound of the ocean in shells. This is a myth. The sound you hear when you put a shell against your ear has nothing to do with it being from the ocean. It's actually part of the background noise around you, just turned up a little bit by the shell. So if you're next to the ocean, the shell picks up the sound of the ocean, the alpha wolf. There's actually no such thing as an alpha wolf. This idea was brought about in a paper from the 1970s, but the author later said in a paper that he rejected the idea of an alpha wolf. While it's true that multiple wolves who share a small space in captivity will develop alpha and beta-like hierarchies, wild wolves behave nothing like this. In the wild, a wolf pack is typically formed by monogamous parents and their puppies, and the wolf pack is basically a tightly knit family consisting of parents or breeders and their offspring, not an alpha and beta.
We need to talk about...
Hey man, those facts, those will blow my freaking reality wide open, man. I've always when you used to put a shell up to your ear, they always used to say that like you were here in the ocean. That's another piece about your hood. Gone. And I remember seeing freaking blue veins, yeah. I remember when I was a kid sometimes I'd see blue. I'm like, is our blood blue? I said, how come when we bleed it's never blue? So I learned that very early on, man, but we're learning out here today. I like that.
Sex tourism. So if you don't understand what this is the practice of elderly men and women from America or other countries traveling to more undeveloped countries where the ages of consent are much lower, and then purchasing children to do things with. These are just some of the men who have been caught on camera doing these things. And this opens up a disturbing thought. I mean, you think you know somebody, but what are they doing in these foreign countries? Because laws were passed in the 2000s that outlawed this practice, meaning that if you committed an act with a child in a foreign country, the United States government can still prosecute you. But there was a great documentary made by Chris Hansen where they followed a wealthy American doctor over, I think it was in the Philippines, one of those countries, and caught him in the act of purchasing a child.
And then they followed him back to the United States, where he had a full family, he ran a successful practice, and he was then turned over to the authorities. But all you have to do is look at this and the low ages of consent in so many different countries. And just recently, a North Dakota lawmaker was caught doing this in the Czech Republic. So how many children have to be hurt before more action is taken against this whole thing? Every single year, the statistics show that over 1 million children are abused as a part of this system. 1 million children. Imagine a group of 1 million children, all of their lives completely changed forever, every single year, every year. And these sick bastards get away with it time and time again. Now, I don't know what I can necessarily do to stop this from happening, but I can inform people and try to get these videos out, because this is incredibly disturbing stuff. And I'm going to talk more about this guy in my next TikTok.
Curtain number 1.
Trying to find a loophole. Disgusting.
Wait. You don't remember what she looks like.
How rare is your body? Let's find out. About 75% of people have a deviated septum, and this is a condition in which the bone and cartilage that divide the nose in half are crooked, making one nasal passage smaller than the other, and it's known to cause nosebleeds, problems breathing, or loud breathing when you're sleeping. Less than 1% of people have an extra finger crease, and it's also called camptodactyly, and it's just when you have an extra little ridge on your fingers, and it is most common on your pinky.
Ooh.
Less than 1% of people have an eyeball scar. This is also called a macular pucker, and it's just scar tissue that forms in your eye. And it's known to cause blurred or distorted vision. And it's caused when the vitreous, which is the gel-like part of your eye, starts to pull away from the retina. Less than 1% of people can hear colors or see sounds. For example, this could happen as soon as someone hears a sound, they automatically see the color red, or as soon as they read a word, a certain color pops into their mind. About 33% of people experience motion sickness, and this 33% are highly susceptible to motion sickness, while the rest just experience it in extreme conditions. And it's caused when your brain starts to get signals from your body that it's moving, but they're mismatched and don't match up.
Here's some Disney Channel stars that went to...
Do I have any of those? Or is any of the Seeker's body is weird, man? Does they have that extra, they said, I guess cartilage on your pinky or eyeball scars? I didn't even know an eyeball could get a scar.
to jail, but each time the crime gets worse. Starting off, Mitchell Musso, who played Oliver Oken in Hannah Montana, was pulled over in 2011 for driving under the influence. He was only 20 at the time and was arrested and released on bail. Because of this, his character was written out of Parrot Kings and his show Prank Stars was cancelled. Next up, Adam Hicks, who played Luther on Zeke and Luther and had a starring role in Lemonade Mouth, was arrested a couple times, but most recently for an armed robbery with his girlfriend. His sentencing was delayed multiple times due to mental health evaluations and was eventually given a 5-year sentence. But he's now currently on parole and making music on TikTok. Moving on, Lindsay Lohan was Disney's golden child in the early 2000s, starring in iconic movies such as The Parent Trap, Freaky Friday, and Mean Girls, before getting into trouble with the law. She's been arrested for driving under the influence, drug possession, violating her probation, a theft charge, and has even had a bench warrant out for her arrest. And finally, Phil Lewis, who played Mr. Mosby on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, was arrested and charged for vehicle manslaughter after killing a 21-year-old girl while drunk driving. When they tested his blood alcohol, it was 3 times the legal limit. He was originally given a 5-year sentence, 2 years of probation, and 350 hours of community service, but ended up only serving 1 year due to his work with prison-based theater groups that performed in jails, churches, and schools to highlight the consequences of drug abuse.
After breaking up in the 50s,
Childhood.
these two high school sweethearts are now newlyweds at 82 and 85. Eddie and Caroline dated for years in high school, and they spent so much time together that Caroline was known as Eddie's girl around their Nashville town. And when Eddie graduated a few years before Caroline, she had hoped for his class ring as a sign of commitment, but Eddie wasn't ready, and he was about to leave their hometown for the ROTC program at the University of Tennessee. When he dropped her off at her house one evening in 1959 without giving her a class ring and with no mention of the future, Caroline knew that their relationship was over. She says that she recalls running into her house and crying for that entire night, and then the two went on to live completely separate lives, including Caroline Caroline winning Miss Nashville the same year that Eddie left. In 1961, they both married other people and shortly thereafter had children and raised families. Eddie spent 21 years as a pilot in the Air Force, and Caroline became an interior designer and an author. But in 2001, Caroline lost her husband, and in 2021, Eddie lost his wife. A year later, in 2022, Eddie felt compelled to reach out to Caroline, and he says he called 9 times before she answered, but when she did, the spark was still there. With 6 decades of catching up to do, they met back up in Nashville, and just 3 months later, Eddie asked her to marry him. He wanted to get her a traditional engagement ring, but she said that all she wanted was his high school class ring, just like all those years ago. Now, as newlyweds in their 80s, they say that they feel just like kids again. I'm Jen, and I post something positive every day.
It's true love. Really, works through. They found each other, man, after all that time. Can you even imagine that, living separate lives? You come back and marry your first love. That was a great story. We need something positive every day.
Mason TV was able to trick Spotify into sending him Harry Styles' 1 billion streams plaque, so he decided to put it to good use. He created a TikTok account with the username SecretSue94, later changed to Sue Manella, playing on Harry Styles' nickname Sue, known within his fandom. He created multiple vines Harry made in 2013, adding subtle clues like a drawn-on cross tattoo to make it seem more authentic, and even getting pink carpet for his stairs to match Harry's stairs. He developed a multiverse of fake TikTok accounts for Harry's friends to lend credibility to the main account. He went to great lengths, including dressing up as Harry, painting his nails, and having fake paparazzi photos taken to show Harry with a Spotify plaque and using TikTok on his phone, which helped him spread the belief in the account. Overnight, fans all over social media and even major media outlets were speculating about its authenticity. Millions of people talking about the account led it to going viral and amassing over 600,000 followers.
This man left his 2-year-old toddler in a hot car while he went to go play video games. Not only is this case super disturbing because of what he was doing while his 2-year-old daughter was strapped in this hot boiling car, but apparently he's done this so many times before. It all happened on July 9th when 37-year-old Christopher Schultz arrived home at 12:50 and his daughter was strapped into her car seat and she was sleeping, so he decided to leave her in there because he did not want to wake her up, and he had left the AC on as well. Christopher's wife Erica arrived home at 4 p.m. from work and she found their 2-year-old daughter still strapped in the car. At this point, this poor little girl was already gone, and when paramedics arrived, there was nothing they could really do. Now, while Christopher claims that the AC was on, it turns out that it actually turned off only 30 minutes after he left to go inside. This means that she was left in this 180-degree boiling car for about 2.5 hours. At first, Christopher lied and said that he had left her in there for about 30 to 45 minutes and had checked up on her multiple times, but after they investigated and saw home surveillance footage of a neighbor, they noticed that she was actually in there for about 3 hours.
How long was she sleeping in the car out there? I want to say it was no more than 30-45 minutes. And I don't think their air was off that entire time. I think there was a time in between. I had checked on her last. It was still running. She was still sleeping. And then when I went back out, the car was off.
Like I said, he's done this so many times before, according to his other daughters. And his wife also sent him a text message saying, "I told you to stop leaving them in the car. How many times have I told you?" But what I also found so weird is that his wife also sided with him, and she got really upset when police arrested Christopher. I don't understand how she has any type of sympathy for this man who just took your baby's life because he was playing video games. He was warned multiple times about this, so there is no excuse. Christopher was originally charged with 2nd-degree M, but then it was changed to 1st-degree, and he pleaded not guilty. If he gets convicted, he does face life in prison.
This pedophile senator
for some video
North Dakota
games.
is one of the most disturbed people I've ever researched. This is all coming out right now in the news, so let's talk about it. Ray Holmberg was born in 1944, and he was first elected to the North Dakota Senate as a Republican in 1976. He ended up serving as a senator for decades, and he became one of the longest-serving senators in United States history. But behind the scenes, Ray was carrying out the most demonic activities you can imagine. The first allegations against him came out in 2020, when a man named Canton Todd came out and said that Ray had sexually assaulted him in 2010. You can read some of his tweet there. Canton provided evidence of where he was assaulted, and investigators were actually able to show that that apartment was indeed owned by the senator. And they were also able to confirm that the senator was seen with that guy around the same time. But nothing ever came out of this. Then in 2022, a huge scandal erupted. It turns out Ray Holmberg had shared 72 text messages with a child predator inside of prison. So this guy was sentenced for CP production and distribution, and while he was in prison, Ray Holmberg texted him 72 times. Now obviously people were asking, what were these texts about? Well, some of the texts that were eventually recovered showed Holmberg asking this convicted predator if he could meet up with his 19 to 20-year-old boyfriend to give him a massage. Holmberg has claimed in the news that these text messages were just about some lawn care, that this pedophile just happened to be redoing his lawn and that's what he was texting him about. And when he was pressed by members of the press, he stated the messages were just simply gone. I don't understand this. In most cases, the police can immediately go back and retrieve any text messages from criminals, so why haven't they done this yet with this guy? But this only gets significantly worse. Just 2 days ago, Ray Holmberg pled guilty to child sex tourism. If you're confused on what that means, this means that Ray, while he was a United States Senator, was traveling overseas to engage in acts with minors. Prosecutors in the case alleged that he traveled 14 times to Prague in the Czech Republic between the years 2011 and 2021 to pay to engage in acts with minors. And even more disturbingly, a number of these trips were state trips. So that means that the United States government was paying for him to go over to the Czech Republic. And he was there on an official capacity. So he definitely did this, and when this all came out, it brought up the history of CP charges that were also leveled at him in the past. That's right, they also discovered that between 2012 and 2013, Ray, who was a United States Senator at the time, was using the alias Sean Evans online to, quote, convince a child to send him sexually explicit images. AKA, this freak was pretending to be a child online to receive CP from a child. So with all of this, the sexual assault, the traveling to a country to engage in acts with minors, the CP, all of that, you would imagine this guy would go away for a long time, right? These are serious, terrible charges. Well, no. Because he pled guilty, he's going to get a sweetheart deal. That means that the Department of Justice dropped the CP charges against him, and the judge is believed to, quote, recommend the low end of the sentencing guideline range. His lawyers have said they expect him to get 3 to 4 years in prison. So for molesting multiple young boys, for convincing a child to send him graphic material, for sexually assaulting a man, for being in contact with a child predator who probably sent him other stuff that got deleted, this guy is going to get 3 to 4 years in prison. Gotta love American justice, right? If you want to join me on my journey to expose pedophiles and creeps like this, listen to my new podcast, The Conspiracy Files. You can either watch it on YouTube or you can listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in a few weeks, we're going to be doing an episode about pedophile members of Congress and the Senate, and it's really, really disturbing stuff. This guy's definitely going in there.
Joof.
How rare is your body? Only 10% of people are left-handed. However, they actually tend to live shorter lives. And only 1% of people in the world are ambidextrous. It means you have no preference of which hand you write and draw with. And only 1.5% of people have a single palm crease. This is mostly found in males and is a hereditary trait. And less than 1% of people have an extra rib. Most of us have 24 ribs, but some people are actually born with 25. And it's called a cervical rib. Now 3% of people have these little X's on their palms. It's extremely rare, but it's a sign that you have strong character.
Here's what some of the most famous monsters actually are. The chupacabra. The goat-griefing livestock leech believed to be first seen in Puerto Rico was more than likely a dog with a severe case of mange, and that's when mites burrow into the skin and basically cause parasitic alopecia. Bigfoot. Different animals, same beast, or whatever it was Kobe said. Anyway, it was probably a mangy bear. Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C. What the hell mange does? Coke bear done graduated to meth? And I don't mean numbers. The Loch Ness Monster. There have been many theories, but what's most likely was probably just an escaped circus elephant with trunks out like Dragon Ball. For centuries, there have been stories of killer Cyclops, a one-eyed op to humanity. Whole time, someone probably just found an expired elephant skull in an Olympic long jump to a conclusion. And last, almost every sea monster story you've ever heard was probably just some whale freeing his willy. That's exactly what you think it is, the more you know.
It is, what the hell?
What if theories. What if everything behind you disappears, but when you look back, it reappears? What if our shadows were warning us about something in the dark because they disappear in it? What if you're the only person left on Earth and everyone and everything around us are just imaginary people and things we've made up so that we don't feel lonely? What if every time you think you hear your name being called, it's actually just your family trying to wake you up from a coma? What if the meteor that killed the dinosaurs was actually a UFO and we're the aliens?
Tell me secrets, man. Down below, what are the most freaking weirdest what if questions she asked? I think when she said about the aliens and how if we hear our real name being called by family, we're really trying to wake up from a coma. I couldn't even imagine that.
Wholesome facts that'll make your day slightly better. Part 2. If you've already made it to the airport without dying, you shouldn't be nervous about flying because you've already made it through the deadliest part of plane travel. Whenever you pet an animal, it actually lowers your cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. Side note, this may not work on electric eels, porcupines, or anything that could decimate you in 2 seconds.
You think?
Because guinea pigs get lonely, it's actually illegal in Switzerland to own just one. You have to get at least 2 if you want to have any at all. Sometimes tarantulas will keep tiny frogs as pets. The frogs will eat small insects that would typically eat the tarantula eggs, and in exchange, the frog gets a pretty damn good bodyguard. Capybara Land is a place in Japan where you can quite literally hang out with capybaras and see them chilling in hot springs. If 99% of the world's population finds you unattractive, that would mean that 78 million people still find you attractive.
You got a chance. You got a shot out there with somebody, bro. That's insane, man. Even if half the population thinks you're ugly.
This is one of the craziest urban legends I've ever heard. And it ended up being true. So almost 100 years ago, there was an aquarium in Australia that had a giant tiger shark on display. And the legend goes that one day, in front of like groups of families, the shark threw up a human arm. And not only is that true, but it opened a murder investigation. Also, this week's episode is all about Australian true urban legends, so make sure you listen. So after the shark threw up the human arm, the police had to figure out whose it was and why it was in the shark's belly. Well, the first thing the police noticed was the arm was cut cleanly, not jagged like it was from a shark bite, meaning that the arm was intentionally cut. So now it's clear that this was a murder, but whose arm is it? Well, one thing they noticed is that the arm has 2 boxers in a fighting stance tattooed on it. So they end up writing about that in the paper, and one guy who was reading it goes, "Hey, that sounds like my brother's tattoo." His brother was a man named Jim Smith, and he was involved in the seedy underbelly of Sydney society. Jimmy ran insurance fraud scams in Sydney, and he was just involved with a lot of bad people. And the last person he was seen with was one of Sydney's most notorious criminals. The story has a lot of twists, including how was he involved with the last guy he was seen with. And there's a lot of fun Australian urban legends, like the story of the Button Man. So make sure you check out this week's episode.
Fun fact of the day that my small brain cannot physically comprehend. This one really did make me say, what the fuck? I want you to do me a favor and pour yourself a glass of water. Do it! Now, there is an immensely high chance that that water you're about to drink is older than the solar system. This is because it existed in ice specks floating in cosmic clouds before any of this shit came to be. Oh, and one more thing. Scientists estimate that every glass of water you drink has 100% passed through a dinosaur. So put immensely bluntly, the most vital thing humans need to survive is Jurassic wee-wee. My brain! Let's make a deal. If you didn't know these facts or they shocked you in any way, you have to share it. Now remind someone to stay hydrated today. And then immediately send them this video. We're so evil. Elon!
Jurassic wee-wee, bro. What the hell? I didn't even know that, but if you think about it, yeah, like the water we drinking, I guess he said they've been passed through dinosaurs, man. We drink Jurassic wee-wee, man. The more you know. Tap in with us. You gonna learn some things.
What's the most dangerous place on Earth? Number 8 is Lake Natron in Tanzania. The lake's so alkaline, animals get mummified. 7, Morgan Island, off the coast of South Carolina. 4,000 monkeys all infected with the herpes B virus. 6 is Mexico's giant crystal cave. 1,000 feet underground. Cave is 113 degrees Fahrenheit and 100% humidity. 5, Oymyakon, Russia. The coldest town on Earth, reaching minus 50 degrees. Number 4, Runit Island. In the 70s, the US government buried radioactive plutonium. Number 3, the K2 Summit. It's the inhospitable mountain summit in the world. Number 2 is Snake
Snake Island, an island full of thousands of poisonous snakes. It's illegal to go here. But what is North Sentinel Island? Home to the indigenous people who have violently rejected contact with the outside world. So much so, if you even get close, they'll swim out to you and try to kill you.
Now this is insane. Today I learned that in a remote village in Turkey, there is a family that walks on all fours. Now these individuals have baffled scientists since they were first discovered in 2005, and initially experts couldn't explain why they were the only known humans to walk on all fours. The only theory that they had was that humans were beginning to devolve. Yes, I am not kidding. I literally just posted a YouTube video reacting to some of these insane theories. The documentary on the family got roasted so hard that they had to turn off the comments. It's pretty good, check it out. Now the real reason that they walk on all fours, and to sum it up very simply, their parents are first cousins and have 18 children. And unfortunately, because of this, they were born with an extremely rare disorder that makes them lose their sense of balance. They had no balance as babies, and instead of learning to stand upright and walk like the rest of us, they remained crawling for life.
Damn, crawling for life? I couldn't do that.
Unfortunately, on Saturday, April 20th of this year in Newport, Michigan, a child's birthday that's supposed to be filled with joy was then filled with sadness and grief. 66-year-old Marcella Chidester drove her car into Swan Boat Club where a birthday party was being hosted. There, she unalived 2 children and injured 13 other individuals. Later in court, she testified stating that she had a seizure while she was driving and that caused her to have the accident. But police testified stating that she was tested for alcohol and she was highly intoxicated at the time of the crash. Her lawyer then claimed she did have 1 glass of wine before getting behind the wheel, but police said based on her BAC, blood alcohol concentration, it's impossible she only had 1 drink. As of April 23rd, she's being held on a $1.5 million bond and is being charged with murder. Being that this case is so recent, her exact jail sentence has not yet been determined. The 2 victims are 8-year-old Lana Phillips and her younger brother, 4-year-old Zane Phillips. I've put a link to a GoFundMe in the comments section for this family, and in the meantime, how long do you think Marcella should receive in jail?
Does anyone remember
how long,
outside of St. Louis and they found over 200 bodies in one spot? And before I even get into it, you know that's what tonight's episode is going to be about.
Whoa.
So outside of St. Louis, there's this one area that has all of these strange mounds. There's no hills anywhere else, so people always wondered if they were man-made. But in the 1960s, when they were building a freeway there, they had to cut through these mounds for construction. So they thought they would just cut into them and there would be dirt inside. But that was not the case. One of the mounds had 272 bodies buried inside of it.
Damn.
And they were like, what is going on? Is this from a serial killer? Well, 2 things. First, the bodies were in really bad shape. The skeletons were largely women, and they were all lined up in these rows. And the ones that weren't women, a couple of them had been beheaded. And the second thing is that these bodies were 1,000 years old. It turns out that these mounds were from an ancient civilization that practiced human sacrifice. And this was kind of a big discovery because historians didn't think that indigenous Americans practiced ritual sacrifice until that discovery. But why were they sacrificing people and how were they doing it? Well, if you want to know more about what was happening in the area and you maybe want to know more about human sacrifice in general, you're definitely going to want to check out tonight's episode.
That's actually insane, Seekers, man. It wasn't just one man. There's like they said it was like 2 or 3 of them, so they was all filled up to the brim. Man, more you know, but like times back then, people went to some dark things, man.
These are the biggest things in the world. Up first, we have the world's biggest functioning iPhone. It's made by the YouTuber Matthew B. It's over 6 feet tall and yes, actually works. And this is the world's largest pizza, which is enough to feed an entire village. It was made by 5 friends in Italy in December 2012. It measures 13,580 square feet. And this is the largest truck in the world. It's the Belize dump truck. And this truck is over 65 feet long, 33 feet wide, and 26 feet tall.
These are interesting facts to tell your friends, part 1. Up first, did you know 2 days in your life will not last 24 hours? And those days are the day you were born and the day you will die. This is absolutely insane, and just wrap your head around that for a second. Next, it is almost impossible to speak the biggest word in the English language. And it's on the screen now, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce it.
Me either.
Next up, you only know when you fell asleep when you wake up. So next time you're laying in bed trying to sleep, just know you won't know you fell asleep until you've woken up. Next up, you can feel that your toes are touching, but your brain just ignores it. Do me a favor and try and feel your toes touching. I bet you can. Next, 90% of people after a discussion are left thinking of arguments of stuff they could have talked about. And I know I'm 100% guilty of this. Next, our brain generates about 50,000 thoughts a day. I guarantee you can't even write down 50,000 thoughts. Finally, the last person you think about before you fall asleep is the source of all of your pain or all of your joy. So, just remember that.
Really? I never even thought about it like that. Who do you guys think about before you guys fall asleep? Is it joy or pain?
Fun facts that you might find pretty damn interesting. Number 1, banging your head against a wall for an hour burns 150 calories. Number 2, approximately 40,000 Americans are injured by toilets each year. Number 3, there's a higher chance of you being elected President of the United States than winning the lottery. Number 4, an average of 100 people choke to death on ballpoint pens each year. Number 5, it is harder to be an employee at Walmart than a student at Harvard, because Walmart has a lower acceptance rate. Number 6, human birth control pills work on gorillas. Number 7, there are 2 million millionaires in the United States. I am not one of them. And number 8, like fingerprints, every tongue print is different from person to person.
That's actually a freaking mind-blowing fact with the one she said about president, man. That the president, that really goes to show you, man, how sometimes, man, I think the lottery, man, is just freaking corrupted, or there's a theory behind it where, like, they be choosing people to win. Because that makes no sense how you have a higher chance of becoming a president than actually winning the lottery. If you said that to a person, they probably look at you like you was crazy. But I guarantee you that's true.
This is why you should never go swimming in a lake again. If you ever go swimming in a lake, you can get a very severe brain infection called an agleria, and it's caused by amoebas that are found in lakes and rivers. The amoeba will then start slowly eating your brain, which you would most likely die from. This is extremely rare to get, but every time you go into a lake, you actually risk getting it. So, I for one am never going in a lake again, and I think you guys should do the same.
Thanks for that helpful information. We will not be doing it.
We are
No.
the most dangerous thing in Massachusetts. Yep, I'm talking about the Pukwoodji. We're those legendary forest spirits you've probably heard whispers about. We've been hanging around Massachusetts' woods since the Wampanoag tribes first called this place home. Sure, we can be a bit of a nuisance to humans, and once upon a time, we kinda got along. But then things took a turn for the worse, and humans started coming after us hard. Ever since, we've had it out for humans, not holding back, and taking them out whenever we see a chance. We're all about messing with our targets, and what we do next, well, that depends on who you run into us at. If you're a hiker who's lost, we might help you find your way, though not back to the trailhead, if you catch my drift. Out hunting, watch out for our poison arrows, and if you're a young woman, well, we've got plans that don't bear going into. Long story short, if you're wandering through Massachusetts, keep your eyes peeled and know your surroundings. Comment your name if you want to be protected, and if you have an encounter with us, get away as soon as possible because
you will never go
Okay.
again if you watch this documentary. It is about hunters and people who specialize in being in the wilderness who just vanish without a trace. And I'm not talking like they wander into the woods and just go missing. In one of these cases, a guy went into the woods with a group of his friends and they went hunting. He was only about a couple of feet away from them when suddenly they turned around and he was gone. In many of these cases, massive search parties are released to try to find these people and they are never found. A couple of theories are discussed in this doc, like paranormal theories, Sasquatch theories, ideas that maybe they like fell into crevasses. If trained professionals are going missing in the wilderness, you bet your ass I'm not going anywhere near the woods. Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced anything weird in the wilderness, and hit follow for more docs to watch.
She nailed it, man. Those are trained professionals going in the woods and they just disappearing, jumping off the face of the earth, and I ain't going nowhere near there, bro.
A woman who was missing for 30 years was just found alive in Puerto Rico. So Patricia Copta vanished without a trace from her home in Pennsylvania in 1992. The situation surrounding her disappearance was a little strange and scary because Patricia's mental health had been getting worse and worse over the years. So when she disappeared, the police told her younger sister and husband that they thought she left on her own accord and basically closed the case. They thought that she would maybe come back, but then 30 years went by with no phone calls and no contact. Everyone in her life had assumed she passed away. But recently, an 83-year-old woman in an elderly home in Puerto Rico started opening up to a nurse for the first time. The woman had been diagnosed with dementia and started bringing up things in her life that she had never spoken about before. This alarmed one of the nurses at the facility, who contacted authorities to get a DNA test because she started believing that this woman was a missing woman from the United States. And sure enough, it was Patricia. She had never told anyone about her previous life and had never contacted her family. Her husband and sister were contacted because they're still alive, and they were shocked.
Could you guys imagine that, man, just finding your lost relative like that?
12-year-old girl unalived her entire family so she could be with her 23-year-old boyfriend. Jasmine Richardson was a normal kid until she turned 11 years old. She started dressing in a darker aesthetic, liking some darker things. She would post on websites like MySpace and VampireFreaks.com, telling people she was 15 instead of 11. Because the thing about Jasmine is, even though she was 11, she didn't look 11. She always kind of looked older than she actually was. She started sneaking out to hang out with her new older friends and would meet older guys. By the time that Jasmine was 12 years old, she was in a full-on relationship with this freak, 23-year-old Jeremy. And just so you know, just because she was lying about her age on social media, this guy was fully aware that his girlfriend was 12 years old, a literal preteen, and he would also tell people that he was a 300-year-old werewolf. So for context, we are dealing with a full-on freak. Jasmine's parents were horrified when they found out that their 12-year-old daughter was online telling people that she was older than she actually was, and that she was dating a full-on adult. So they did their best to keep Jeremy away. Jasmine and Jeremy didn't want to be apart, and they thought that the only way that they could be together is if Jasmine's parents were no longer alive. What started out as jokes became real plans to not only unalive Jasmine's parents, but her 8-year-old brother as well. On April 22nd, 2006, Jasmine secretly led Jeremy into her home where he brutally unalived her parents. Jasmine's 8-year-old brother, Jacob, heard the entire thing while hiding in his room holding his lightsaber for protection. It's like heart-shattering. It's unclear who actually unalived 8-year-old Jacob because Jasmine and Jeremy blame each other for his death. Jasmine and Jeremy thought that they were soulmates, and now with her parents out of the picture, they were going to be together forever. But in reality, that was not the case. They were actually quickly brought to justice because they were bragging to anyone that would listen about what they had just done to her entire family. And of course, as soon as they were arrested, the soulmates turned on each other. Jeremy was sentenced to 3 life sentences, but due to Jasmine's age, she only served 6 years in a rehabilitation center and 4 years on probation. She was fully released into society in 2017 and has been out living in society, free as a bird, ever since under a new name. Actually, a lot of controversy in this case because of that, but what do you think? Do you think Jasmine is a victim, a child manipulated by a predator, or do you think if she's old enough to do the crime, she's old enough to do the time?
Terrifying facts you never knew.
You know what to
If
do.
your immune system ever found out that you have eyeballs, you would go blind. Which means right now your immune system has no clue that you can see. Because if it did, they would attack your eyeballs until you can no longer ever see. This is because your eyeballs have a protein in them called crystalline that doesn't exist anywhere else in your body. So if your immune system found out and checked them out, it would be like, something's wrong here. Studies show that most serial killers are born in November. Today's high school students have the same anxiety levels as insane asylum patients had in the 1950s. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, my anxiety might be up there too. There's a disease called fatal familial insomnia, where people suddenly one day lose their ability to fall asleep, which leads them to slowly go insane. They can't distinguish dreams from reality anymore and go into some type of paranoia. It becomes so severe that they eventually die. Those that make it to the final stage and don't die usually end up in a vegetative state, no longer conscious. And it can happen to any one of you. About 3,000 people go missing every year in the United States. The last execution by guillotine was in 1977. This was in France. And also that was the same year the first Star Wars movie came out. You are always 6 minutes away from death, but breathing resets the clock. In 2011, Anatoly Yakovich was arrested for having 12 dogs in his apartment. Only problem is, They weren't normal dolls. They were recently deceased little girls that had been dug up and dressed to be put on display. In 2012, a Burger King employee anonymously posted this to 4chan. It said, "This is the lettuce you eat at Burger King." It only took 20 minutes for people to track down the branch that he worked at, and he was fired. You really never know what people are doing to your food. H.H. Holmes was a serial killer who built a torture hotel in the 19th century. He had secret rooms with gas chambers, trap doors, and stairs that led to nowhere. He loved to play with his victims' minds. It was almost like a real-life Saw movie. There's a bridge in Scotland called the Overtoun Bridge, and for some reason, dogs keep jumping off of it at the same spot. Yeah, they just jump to their deaths. Experts can't figure out why either. Some people speculate it's a magnetic field, or maybe a frequency that only they can hear, but others believe it's something supernatural. But whatever is making dogs jump off that bridge to their deaths is still to this day unexplained. Joe Matheny was an infamous serial killer who not only cooked his victims to eat for himself, but also made them into burgers using their remains. He then sold them to unsuspecting customers from a roadside food stand. We really never know what we eat. I'm cooking all my food myself. That's why I don't eat over people's house. In 2021, a new homeowner was shocked to find a boarded up wall. When he ripped the boards off the wall, he discovered a hole. In that hole was a doll clutching a note. The note saying that she killed a family who lived there in the 1960s. Be honest, would you move out?
I'm
In
out.
1978, there was a pilot named Frederick Valentin. Him and his plane disappeared in Australia. His last communication was, "Melbourne, that strange aircraft is hovering above me again." It is hovering, and it is not an aircraft. This is a mugshot of William West and William West. Oh, and they're not related at all, but they were both sent to Leavenworth Prison at the exact same time in 1903. And after some confusion, the staff finally figured out they were two different people who had the exact same name and looked identical. This was said to be one of the main reasons why we now use fingerprints to identify somebody. There's biotech being developed as we speak that can make prisoners feel they are serving an 1,000-year sentence in a matter of 8 hours. That's horrifying. Imagine thinking you spent 1,000 years somewhere, and then when you wake up and snap out of it, you realize that it was only a couple hours. Do you know how crazy that is? Anyways, like this video if you want a part 2.
Basically put you on a genjutsu, bro. That's actually insane, man, if you think about it, man. Those facts, the more you know, man. The more you know. Seekers, if you guys stay with me to the end of the video, you're true seekers seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support, man. Like I said, I do daily uploads, man. So always make sure you guys check the channel at least once time every single day. You guys can expect the banger to be uploaded. Like I said, man, just sub up to the channel, hit the post notification bell, follow me on my social medias, links in the description down below. Hit the like button, man. It helps push us into the algorithm, man, so we can just take off in it one day. But we're going to continue to grow step by step every single day. Guys, I'm catching the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.